be fun. Hey, we got Amanda Ross today joining us. One of One's episode 9. Amanda, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. You're another low vitamin A warrior success story. So, first question is, what did you eat today?
This morning I had a breakfast burrito with a whole wheat tortilla and some turkey sauce or turkey bacon, an egg. I know, don't hate me. Some egg and banana and some almond butter.
Nice. And you had the yolk. You had the yolk with the egg.
I did. I'm a yolk fan, but I don't go crazy with them.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about that. That's good to know. I think this is week 2 in a row where right out of the gates we throw a curveball at everyone.
Yeah, no, it was not beans and rice and bison. Sorry.
But that's why this is so important, and that's why I'm doing this, because like people don't realize like you can eat a lot of different ways on this diet.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and then for lunch I had turkey sandwich on some spelt sourdough that I made and a cup of lentil soup and 2 kiwis, I think. Yes. So,
Nice.
yeah.
All right, so everyone wants to know, tell us about your story, your journey. How'd you get here? Where you're from, where you're at, where are you going?
Yeah. So I took some time and I kind of just wrote out my whole story because I feel like it's part of the health journey that I'm on. I was raised in middle class home. My dad was a pastor, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So we didn't make a lot of money and we ate just standard American diet, lots of white bread, lots of dairy. And, but they did instill in us definitely make homemade food, have a garden. We shot all of our meat. So we had elk, deer, antelope. That was most all of our meat. So that was great. And I was a pretty healthy girl. I struggled when I was young with low energy. Like I just couldn't wake up in the morning. I was always just kind of dragging, which I think was probably anemia. We never tested, but my mom was always giving me like raisins and iron rich foods to try to boost me up. I was in a lot of sports, so I would have these like blood sugar crashes after sports. I remember just like I'd be doing good and then I was just dizzy and out, and we never really figured out what it was. It was just like Amanda better eat a lot before she competes and whatever. So but we didn't take a lot of supplements. I think we had like vitamin C in the house. I remember a bottle of cod liver oil in the fridge, and like I think it was there from the time that we like all through the children, and we probably all got like 1 dose our entire lives, and it was, disgusting. But so I was great there. Moving on into adulthood, I still had the bouts of low energy, kind of anemia. I started to get really bad acne. And to the point where a certain time during my adult life, I was on an antibiotic for it for probably 6 months, which was probably terrible for my gut microbiome. So I got married, went to college, got married. My husband and I decided we wanted to start a family. Well, 6 months went by, a year went by, no baby. And we decided to kind of start looking into the whys of why we couldn't get pregnant. So I went to a couple kind of woo-woo muscle doctors that I honestly wish I wouldn't have gone to, because they took a ton of money from us and I never really had clear direction. And it was, here's a bunch of herbs and things like that, and it didn't really help me. So we ended up going to the normal doctor, and he put me on Clomid, and we got pregnant on that. I think 3 months into the Clomid process, and I was on the lowest dose, so that was nice, but I did not like how I felt on it. So got pregnant. I remember my sister, one of my older sisters, I'm the youngest of 7 children. So one of my older sisters gave me the book Nourishing Traditions. And do you know what that book is?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I just ate that up. I've always had a love for health type things, but I still ate just standard American diet. But I ate that up, and what I got out of it was vitamin A is incredible, and you need it for reproductive health and for your children to have good, um, teeth and blah 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 blah, facial structure, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then it had mentioned that it was good for acne. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take this cod liver oil. I got a bottle of cod liver oil. I'm going to take this. And I took it, I remember for quite some time, but I do remember in the first 2 weeks I took it, my skin did clear up. Like
Yeah.
it looked really good. And then the results went away. But I still took it because, when you see results, you're like, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Um, so I took that through the pregnancy with my son, and I ate standard American diet. I took a prenatal with, vitamin A added. And that pregnancy was so, so, so hard. My body was, from about 17 weeks on, that was when it really started to get hard. My back was just so sore. I had to be at the chiropractor once, even twice a week just to get through the pregnancy. By the end, I couldn't sleep without going on Tylenol PM at night, which I didn't know at that point how bad that was for my liver. I was just a young college student trying to have a baby.
Yeah.
And so I remember, like, even when my husband would go to rub my back, he would rub my back, and it was like it would almost inflame it. It's like it would make it worse. Um,
Hmm.
so, anyways, that was a really, really hard pregnancy. Also, I was very itchy all over by like halfway through, which you read in books that that's normal, but it's not normal because I just had a pregnancy about a year and a half ago and I was not itchy at all. So, anyways, I was very itchy, but then maybe I guess was the first time I had stretched out that big. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It came to the birth, and I remember when my placenta came out, I lost a ton of blood. And one of my older sisters had told me, like, that's us, that's what we do. And anyways, after that whole pregnancy, I just felt worn out, and I was determined to get my health in a better place. One of my sisters was into paleo, and I was like, oh, that sounds like good. That sounds really cool. I want to try that. And so I tried paleo, and I really liked it. At first, I really did seem to do well on it. The eczema that I had developed on my fingers during pregnancy went away. I think I had stopped taking cod liver oil at this time. I don't remember taking it. But after I had a child, I just became absolutely obsessed with health. So I had read Nourishing Traditions over and over. I was just on all these health forums, reading and reading and reading. It really became a strong obsession. And it seemed like the more I obsessed, like my health was just bad. I had anxiety, I had dizziness, I had the blood sugar crashes. So the worst thing happened. I came upon Ray Peat and decided, oh my goodness, this sounds incredible. This is a total paradigm shift. I'm going to do Ray Peat. And I feel like at this point, God was like, yeah, you've gone too far. Like you've idolized health so much. Like it was just, I was so obsessed with it. So Ray Peat, obviously you're getting tons of milk every day. You're eating your raw carrot every day. You're eating tons of sugar. You're eating liver. Um, and my husband and I, he was a farmer, but we had really gotten into regenerative agriculture, and he had land. We had, so I had liver at my disposal all the time, and I would chop up
Wow.
little, liver pills and take those while I was doing Ray Peat, and even after. So, anyways, I really hit rock bottom with Ray Peat because I was taking natural thyroid, and I felt really amazing on it. And I ended up overdosing, and it was a very scary experience. um, I think I'm so naive in my pursuit of health. I thought if it's natural, it can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
That was just my belief, is like, you can play around with supplements, they're not going to hurt you. Like if you go to the hospital and take their stuff, that's going to hurt you. And really, that's that whole appeal to nature fallacy, that
Mm-hmm.
natural things can't hurt us. Natural things can't hurt us. Like, we live in a fallen world, and you take too much of whatever. I think I was taking like pig thyroid or something, and it messed me up. So,
What did it do? How did you feel?
it was like major panic attack, like, and I
Mm.
like it completely affected my mood. I would look at my son, my husband, feel nothing. Like, it feels so weird to look at them and feel completely detached. So what do
Mm.
they call that? Depersonalization.
Mm.
And it was at that point, I'm so thankful that God took me to that point, because I had to see that, like, you are chasing this. And I was in so much fear, like I wouldn't touch anything that was not clean, 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 organic. And it was like he had to stop me. That was what stopped me. And I remember my husband was like, I've had enough of this. Like, you've got to stop. We can't live like this. And we can value health, but it's an idol in our life, and it really was. Um, so I felt like I started to get better with my kind of food obsession. I think I would call it orthorexia, honestly. I mean, it was never diagnosed, but that was kind of what I was, is orthorexic. And I still had my issues. I still had my anxiety that would come up. Still had low energy, mood issues, skin issues. So through the Ray Peat thing, I somehow found Matt Stone. And
Mm-hmm.
Matt kind of on the diet recovery thing, and he's more like, just eat the food. His stuff was back 180 Degree Health. I don't know if you remember that, his website.
Yeah.
I found Garrett Smith through that. And I was like, there's something different about this doctor. Like, I just really was on to him. And
Yeah.
we had decided to get pregnant again, or try to get pregnant. And we got pregnant easily, but I kept miscarrying.
Mm.
Miscarried 3 times. And in the middle of the first two, I reached out to Dr. Smith, and I was like, I want to get a hair mineral analysis and work with you. So he was not onto the vitamin A thing yet. That was years ago. Um, I worked with him. I got my first test. It showed severely low potassium, which of course I was taking vitamin D, as everybody says to do, because low vitamin D levels. Um, he put me on a ton of magnesium, ton of potassium, I think zinc, and a couple B vitamins back then. And he actually put me on vitamin A too, which he didn't know back then. But even adding those minerals, my health improved dramatically. My hair started getting thicker. My whole like I wasn't, my face wasn't swollen anymore. I hadn't changed how I ate. Um, my thyroid was working well again, with those minerals. So I got pregnant with our second son after those 3 miscarriages in between. And it was a better pregnancy overall, but I was still very much. Oh, okay. So sorry, I have to tell you about this part in the story. I had noticed with my first son that I had put on, the Nourishing Traditions diet. Like, his first food was cream spinach with butter. He's eating carrots, he's eating multiple egg yolks. I'm just so proud of him. But I had noticed that his teeth were very prone to decay. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So with my second pregnancy, I was like, bound and determined, I am going to make sure this child has good teeth. So I found myself a raw milk source, and I drank raw milk that entire pregnancy. I took Dr. Smith's minerals plus liver. I was taking probably 3 little pills of liver that I had chopped up a day. So I had severe anemia despite taking tons of spinach, tons of orange juice. tons of liver. I still had anemia that pregnancy. I still had the itching that pregnancy. Um, so it um, came to the delivery of him, and it was a pretty traumatic delivery. He ended up taking his first breath underwater at a water birth, which is another just like sweet. I thought natural things could always go well, you know. So, and I bled again pretty bad and ended up having a retained placenta, which I don't even know if these things are like, I'm not saying they're all linked to vitamin A at all. This is just my story. Um so I lost a ton of blood, had to get a blood transfusion with him. So I really, once I got home from the hospital with him, I really doubled down on, I'm low iron. I'm going to double down on my liver. So that's exactly what I did. 3 months later, we moved to Colorado. We were in Kansas at that time. And I'm realizing that the anxiety that I'm having is just getting more intense. Like it's coming up out of nowhere. I'm literally sitting, I'll be sitting in a room, rocking my baby. We've had a great day. And like within the span of 10 minutes, I'm like having a panic attack. And I'm like, is this because I had a traumatic birth? I don't, what's going on? And I started having this issue where my ears were ringing all the time. So, especially at night when I would go to sleep, my ears would just ring and ring. And I would tell my husband too, I started having some bouts with insomnia, not like full on insomnia, like, but it would take me 2, 3 hours to get to sleep at night. And I would feel electric. Like I didn't know how to explain it to him, but I just said, I'm electric and I can't get to sleep. So I would get out Dr. G's, magnesium oil, and I would just cover myself in it all around my head. And that seemed to be like the only thing that would get me to like chill out. I visited a dentist, and she said, you have the beginnings of periodontal disease. I think that's what you call it, periodontal disease. So like my gums were really inflamed and bad. I had eczema on my fingers, and I noticed like the weight just wasn't coming off very easily. But I was like second child, normal. I had mood issues, so like when it was winter, I just like I felt it. I felt that sad, whatever they say, sad seasonal affect disorder. I felt that. Um, so I was really determined once again, and I health game again. Like I don't know, but I really was trying not to become orthorexic again, and just, but I knew a lot, and you know, everywhere you look, liver is like the cure all. It's the supplement that all mothers should take. Um, so I bought a program called the Energy Blueprint. Do you know who Ari Whitten is? He's in the health sphere.
I don't I don't think I've heard of him, but you've taught me a new word of orthorexia, which is like that's addicted to healthy eating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's when like you're so stressed out, like you won't like if I was starving, I wouldn't eat a McDonald's hamburger. Like, no, and you're just obsessed. Like it wasn't okay to just go shopping at Walmart and get whatever food they had. It was like I had to be in the nicest health food store. And even though I would look at these people and I'm like, these people don't look healthy. Why is it they don't look healthy? Which we know they're probably eating a ton of high vitamin A foods. But um yeah, so I got on this program. It talked a lot about circadian rhythm and the power of light, as far as like the sun and different spectrums of light, red light, stuff like that, which is really, I think, is very beneficial for healing. So that was a good part of the program. The other part of the program that was good is he really pushed to double your protein intake, which I feel like I felt good on that. But the other thing was double your veggie intake. Well, and I was already eating a massive amount of veggies because I was a healthy woman, and that's what healthy women do. So I doubled down, and the anxiety it just kept getting worse. I remember another time my family came and we were going to go out to eat, and I'm having a great time, and then the anxiety just ruined the whole night, and I had to try and cope through it the entire night. And I'm like, is this as good as it's going to get for me? Like, the protein helped me with more energy. The circadian rhythm stuff helped me. But I'm like, this is what it is. Like, I'm going to have my ears ringing constantly. And anyways, I might be forgetting stuff. Oh, I need to say this too. I was very prone as a nursing mom to mastitis. Over and over, I would got it with my first son, and I got it several times with my second son. So, um,
That's basically an infection of the breast that gets really painful when you're breastfeeding.
yeah, it's horrible. It's just horrible. Yeah. And luckily, it's something I haven't had with my third child. That she's been a low vitamin A baby. So, anyways, moving on. I finally messaged. I was messaging with Dr. Smith, and I said, I don't know what's wrong with my son's teeth, because at this point, my other son is showing the same things where they get their baby teeth, and like as soon as they get them, they're decaying. And it's like, what is going on? I don't like, I drank all this raw milk. I don't get what's going on. And he says he had just found out about the low vitamin A thing. And I know it was hard for him. And he said, I want you to stop taking your liver. I think that vitamin A is your issue. And I'm like, what? What is he even talking about? Like, this is so absurd. So I call my sister. I'm like, my doctor said this. He's so dumb. And I'm like, he's like, I don't think I can work with him anymore. Like, this is like vitamin A's and everything. So I just like pushed it off. And I feel like it just kept creeping up in my brain. And he said, you need to go read these books. So I go to the Grant Jenner Forum and I start reading his books. I remember I just like blazed through them. Like, I was up into the night because I'm just like, why is it that we don't know about this? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, I feel like by now we should all know that you can get toxic in this. But I had no idea. Like,
Yeah.
I should have been told, don't take liver when I'm pregnant, but I was told take liver. You know what I mean? So I also felt really sad too, because I'm like, so sweet. I get to have rice and beef and beans for the rest of my life. And I'm a foodie. Like, I love, my family celebrates food. I'm a Christian. I really believe that God created all foods to be enjoyed. But I also believe we live in a fallen world too. And I know that is part of it, that, food can, natural things can hurt us, So, but I felt sad about it all, because I thought, like, I can't raise my boys in a house with no joy with food. Like, how's that going to work? So, luckily, I found Leah, who was on your podcast. And I'm like, man, do you believe this stuff? And she's like, man, I don't know. She was like, I don't know, but I'm willing to try it. And I was like, yeah, I'm willing to try it too. But what do we eat? I'm like, I'm
How'd
not going
you
to.
how'd you find Leah?
So I was, Dr. Garrett had made a post, and I saw that she had written something under it. And I was like, this girl looks halfway normal. And I clicked on her page and I'm like, yeah, she's like my age. And so I just messaged her and I'm like, are you doing this? Like, are we crazy together? Like, what's going on? So she started kind of walking me through, oh, well, I'm eating this and this and this. And it doesn't have to be boring. I think we can make it, pretty, you know, like a normal diet, just kind of being aware of the bigger elements that we had been having so much of. So I decided, I'm going to give it a try. So I gave it a try, and I remember I in the first 2 weeks I got a horrible cold, and I kind of like lost my voice. And I was like, okay, is this detox? Because she was telling me, like, I think you'll have some detox. She had done it a little bit longer than me. I'm like, okay, is this detox? But I also felt, the first thing I felt was calmer. My mood, I didn't have that electric feeling anymore. And we hadn't even incorporated the beans and stuff like that helps soak up the vitamin A. Um, and I I also had some bouts of like really bad heartburn. And I don't know if that was part of it, but I started to slowly see um my anxiety dwindled, where I would have it, but it would then go away and I would feel almost calmer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? My skin, I really liked what it did for my skin. My hair got thicker. Um, my eczema went away on my hands. Um, I'm trying to think of, I started sleeping. My insomnia, it was just the sleep was like so much better. And I was so thankful. I knew I couldn't get orthorexic in my, behaviors again. So I was very aware of that. So I would always make sure, like, okay, if the boys want to go have pizza, I'm going to go have pizza. I'm just going to say, Lord, bless this food to my body and help it nourish it. And yeah, I know it's high vitamin A, but like I got to live my life. And this is the world I live in. So I was able, I luckily, like, I know some other people have a lot of severe reactions to that. Luckily, I don't. If I would keep doing that, because I've pushed the limits with vitamin A since being on this, I've been on it for 6 years. I've pushed the limits and I know I'll start getting that ear ringing. I'll start getting that dizziness. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I gotta get my act together again, you know? So yeah, I kind of played around with it. And I would test it out. Like I said, I did one time. I was like, I'm just going to be super intense on this, which I should have known from my past. It's not a good idea. And I started rinsing my beef off so there was no fat on it. And because that was kind of a thing. I don't know. It was a thing on the vitamin A forum that Dr. Garrett has, like, don't do much fat. So I did that. I did like barley and I went hard, and like I got the worst constipation of my life. I like don't do it. So I learned through kind of being extreme that it's not the way to go. Like you can get health benefits if you just keep on doing the same thing consistently over the years, but it doesn't have to be perfect, is what I learned. Sorry, I lost my place in my notes. Also, during this time, Dr. Garrett brought to light the work of Karen Hurd. I don't know. Have you heard of Karen Hurd?
I haven't.
Okay, so she's the bean queen. That's like her.
Oh yeah.
That's her. Okay, so her story.
I read some of her stuff on beans. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get a chance to go listen to podcasts with her and hear her story, it is incredible. And so he posted about her on his forum. And so I went and I looked up her stuff and I was just like, wow, this like makes the vitamin A detox easy, because here we have beans. They're, help us eat, maybe eat a little vitamin A, but not have it soak up with the bile. So I kind of experimented with eating more tomatoes and things like that while really upping my beans. And I felt fine doing that. I didn't get into a bad place, but I just kind of I feel like more. I feel calmer when I'm low vitamin A. That's all I know is, no, I don't. I'm still in pretty good health, but I like how I feel on low vitamin A better. But I did kind of play around with that because I noticed that people that followed her stuff, like they were still eating massive quantities of vitamin A, but their health issues were resolving. And I think they would resolve quicker if they just took the component of the big vitamin A foods out. So, anyways, her stuff has been absolutely incredible for me. Just learning, okay, so when I do go out and have some super high vitamin A food, I take my psyllium before, I take my beans before. So I make it workable for the lifestyle. And yeah, I probably get some vitamin A, but it's not as much. So I found her. Then I'm in good health.
And the key point I want to add there too is you brought your levels down, and then you started truly biohacking, which you're not using an artificial thing. That's a real biohacker. You bring your levels down, and then you're like, okay, now I have a biohack to surround when I do want to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it was important for me to spend that first year or two. I was pretty strict. Not like beans and rice strict, but like I wasn't like messing around very much with adding salads or ketchup on my burger or things like that. It was bland. a little bit. And I think if people, I'm saying, don't be extreme, but also don't be like, oh, it's just a little vitamin A here, a little vitamin A there. Like, find the balance.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it depends on the person. It depends on the person and the story. I think you brought up such a cool, important point and a powerful point of just balancing. And like, you went from the extreme of orthorexia to like, you know what? I found something that's real and tangible and sustainable. And like, I'm never going to go back to that extreme person again because of that.
yeah,
Right.
totally. Like, I hate that there's benefits in this, but at the same time, like, the benefits are undeniable. So I'm gonna stay in that happy place, but I'm also gonna live my life, and I'm gonna enjoy my life as it comes. And if that means a little dairy here, that's fine. But I watch my symptoms, you know.
Did you
So
ever get your levels, serum retinol and RBP levels checked during this whole journey?
yeah, I got them checked once, like a year in, and I was at like a 33, I think, and I haven't gotten them checked since.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Yeah. This is awesome because there's so many different ways you can go about this. You can go from like the people who were not orthorexia, the people who just didn't care about anything and ate anything, and
Totally.
then find this and then like be a little extreme, check your levels and track it. Or you can do it how you're doing it, where you're still a success story. I think the biggest thing to overcome was the anxiety, you know?
Oh, the anxiety was the worst issue I had. I hated it so bad. I don't wish anxiety on anyone.
It's a common thing, especially with our women.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our women are totally anxious,
Yeah.
which then can lead them into other mood disorders of depression and anger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which totally affects relationships across the board.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Were you
I,
doing were you doing coffee or caffeine, and do you still do it?
so I did coffee a couple years back, but then when I I finally realized, like, I don't feel good on this, and I'm not a very nice mom on this. Like, because I went off for a while when I read Karen Hurd stuff, because she's like anti-caffeine, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to go back once again. I want to see, okay, is this really real? And I'm like, wow, I'm not a nice mom. Like, I'm agitated, I'm snippy, and I'm like, it's just not worth it to me. Now, I still love the taste of coffee. I still enjoy decaf, quality decaf on the weekends, and I do just fine. But like, it's such a gift to not wake up and be like, where's my drink? Where's my, like, I'm just up and ready to go, and life is here. And, like, it's not like, what people say, like, I'll talk to you after my coffee. Like, it's really nice to be free from that. And I feel like people don't, they probably say, oh, you're a joy stealer, but honestly, I feel like it's much better to feel good and to feel awake and not anxious and kind.
I
So
think there's a status quo of we've been conditioned and programmed by our cultural editors, by our authorities, by our marketers to think these things are cool, to think these things are entertainment. And then, I even have trouble. I quit coffee cold turkey in January 1st, and I was going to be a 30-day thing. And then because I'm like a mental maniac, I started just Googling and YouTubing like why coffee was bad for me because like I wanted to keep it going.
yeah,
And then once I saw like, oh, caffeine is a neurotoxin. Oh, it's a pesticide.
yeah,
Oh, it's like, it's constricts your blood vessels.
yeah,
It's liquid anxiety. It leaches essential minerals.
yeah.
And then once I started to see like how I looked and how I felt, I still crave coffee sometimes to this day. I think it's the only thing I've ever been addicted to in my life. It's really, I think it's quietly the most powerful drug on planet Earth,
I think it is too. And I think if you can somehow find a way to, like, I'm always telling my husband, because if he drinks coffee like every single day, he starts to get like migraines and tight. He gets tight in his neck here. We found that out because we've tried over and over to go off and on. But if he will use it, like, say he has a horrible, horrible night of sleep and he'll just have it once or twice that week, he can use it to his advantage. But it's when he gets in that repetition of just every single day that then all of a sudden these headaches come, and it's like his nervous system can't handle it. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, like it's hard because you can read as much as you can read all these studies on caffeine being, not beneficial, then you read, oh, it's good for exercise performance and it's good for your liver, and it's like, what is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do think definitely experimenting with getting off of it and seeing how you feel. And then if you get back on and you're like, no, 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 this needs to be out of my life because it has such a strong hold, then I'd respect you for that.
I think it's like you kind of do it. It's like, hey, there's a little bit of good in the bad. There's a little bit of bad in the good. There's balance in all things. It's like,
Yeah.
You don't want to deprive yourself of joy. You don't want to be like, so what does that mean? We either have to reframe what the definition of joy is, right? Or we have to get to a point where it's like, I can have a coffee once a week, especially on the weekend if I'm hanging out with friends, and then go back to where I'm like, hey, I'm not a slave to that, to that substance.
Yes.
Like I was before.
Yeah.
And that's where we're seeing, I have a lot of young 20-year-olds in my community, young men, 21 on 2 or 3 cups of coffee or Red Bulls a day. And I'm like, guys, you still should have childlike energy.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is driving up their cortisol. They're draining their adrenals.
Yes.
And then I think that's a huge part of this whole low testosterone conversation in the country, where people are saying, oh, coffee raises testosterone. And I'm like, so when I first saw coffee raises testosterone and DHT, I was like, okay, let me drink more black coffee. But I already was adrenal fatigued. I already was stressed with cortisol. I was already vitamin A toxic. So that wasn't going to help me no matter what I was doing.
Yeah. 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 I do feel sad about the young people that are addicted to and need 2-3 cups a day to wake up. And I was an addict. We roasted our own. I would get the green bean at our house, and man, I loved how I felt on it. But then it was like my body hit a point, my liver hit a point where it was like not happy.
I think coffee's part of the orthorexia that I think you and I both suffered from, where it's kind of like, okay, dark chocolate, healthy, boom. Coffee, oh, let's find a reason for it to be healthy. We'll get the organic beans, we'll roast them at home, we'll put grass-fed butter in it.
Oh yeah, that's me for sure.
It's part of that combo. So I like how, super curious to know, what was the lowest your levels ever got. But I think this is such an important conversation. You're such an important case study of, because the common naysayer will kind of see my account and be like, this guy's an extreme maniac. But then there's just thousands of us with all unique different stories where you're like, yeah, I did this thing and it worked. And now I'm not now I know I'm conscious of it, but I'm not it's not the end of the world. And I've leveled up my life and I've become better. And the biggest top 3 symptoms that were destroying my life, I've overcome them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's massive.
Yeah. I think it's a very hard conversation to have with people because it does sound so obscure. Like, oh, you're going to avoid this molecule. Okay. You're dumb. I don't talk about it much with my friends because I do feel like, how do I explain that this can really do a lot of damage, but I've lived it and I know it's true. I had one friend who had a baby that had pretty bad eczema, and I knew she was feeding her like sweet potato and stuff, and I wanted to be like, oh, don't do that. And I kind of hinted to that, but it's just I just looked at her eyes were just so glazed, as I'm like, might want to not do that. They're like, what? I'm trying to be healthy, So it's it's hard to, wake people up to this. And I think that's awesome what you're doing in getting these testimonies, because people can see vitamin A toxicity doesn't just look like one thing every single time. It affects us all differently. And if I just hear somebody's in bad health, my brain is always like, well, how's your liver and how's your vitamin? Like, what's the load? And I think there's definitely other things that cause our livers to malfunction. I don't think vitamin A is the only thing at all. I think another one of my issues was copper. And of course, I was getting tons of copper with all the liver I was taking. So I think that they kind of went together. But I eat a ton of copper rich foods now and I don't experience those things. So I eat tons of nuts and seeds.
But you've gotten your zinc level up, and I think most nuts and seeds, they have that zinc to copper ratio, which is usually 8 to 1. Most of them, you
Okay.
know, you look at pumpkin seeds. It's really when these things get isolated, and that's why it's like pumpkin seeds have high zinc, low copper. Liver has very high copper, and I don't think much zinc at all. So
Really?
that's another sign to me of like when you follow nature and follow the way things were designed to be. And with the vitamin A conversation with friends and family, I had a friend, their 2-year-old boy was suffering some severe ear infections, right? And was going to have to go into surgery. The surgery was scheduled. I forget what the surgery is called. It's kind of almost a commonly known
Yeah.
one.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, where they like drain the ear and stuff.
Yeah.
And although it's common, it's a nightmare for parents to have to go through that, right? So instead of me being like, hey, vitamin A, poison, conspiracy theory, I was like, I just kind of took a shot in the dark and I was like, stop giving the boy milk. And he was like, how did you know that? We give him a bottle every night before bed. And I was like, yeah. I was like, cut out the bottle for 30 days.
Yeah.
And he was like, and because I kind of took the shot in the dark and hit it on the head, and because he had seen that like online I was doing really good with testimonies, he was like, okay, yeah. And he hits me up like a week and a half later, like almost crying, like, yo, like we don't have to get the surgery anymore. He's like, we haven't had a problem since.
That's awesome. I experienced with my ears on the low vitamin A. What your story made me think of something is on the low vitamin A diet. As I was coming off, I would tell my husband, it's like my ears keep popping. It's like I'm coming up out of water. And it would be like just random pops. Whereas all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can hear sort of better. And I didn't even realize I was hearing bad. And
Wow.
that was something that was really weird. I had that probably 5 or 6 different times where I just get this pop, 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 and then it would just be like clearer. It was really interesting. But you're thinking about vitamin A affects the pressure in your head. I think
Yeah.
it does, doesn't it?
It affects anything and everything. And what's really odd is about, the quote, genetics load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. It's like, where does that trigger pull and land? Where does that bullet land? For some people, it lands in 20 different places. For one person, it's just Crohn's. For another guy, it's just asthma. For another person, it's just eczema or kidney issues. But what we do usually see is like you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with whatever condition they've patented and labeled. But usually that person has like 5 or 10 different things going bad in their system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I to kind of go segue back to my story, I ended up, we wanted to get pregnant again and we still suffered some miscarriages while I'm doing the low vitamin A. So I'm like, there's something else going on. I really feel like I'm healthy. I feel good. So I kind of went on for a while. I was like, is it oxalates? Is that the reason I'm miscarrying? But I eat so many oxalates now, they don't affect my digestion or anything. I don't know. I was just searching for something. I found a woman who walked me through all these blood clotting disorders that women can have that can cause miscarriages. And I took tons. I found an OBGYN that was willing to run me through all this gamut of tests and finally found one of the tests it's a genetic, I don't know, I'm going to say it wrong. I think it's a genetic mutation where your blood gets thicker. Your blood gets thicker when you're pregnant as a life-saving measure, but this makes it even more thicker to where the blood can't get the baby doesn't get the oxygen it needs. And while I don't know if that was all my issues for miscarrying, I don't know if vitamin A was part of it. I don't know. I had one of the babies that I lost. We did have it tested, and it was an egg quality issue. So, anyways, I found out that I had this genetic mutation, and I needed to be on blood thinners while I was pregnant, which I wasn't a big fan of. But after you've been through as many miscarriages as my husband and I had gone through, um, you're kind of willing to try things. And I remember, so I had 3 miscarriages between my first 2 sons, and then I had 4 before my daughter that we had. So we were kind of like at our wits' end because we didn't know what else to try. I was in good health, but here I keep miscarrying. That was my like one issue that I still hadn't resolved. And I took 6 months after the last miscarriage before we got pregnant with my daughter now, and I did the Karen Hurd. She has courses on her website, and I took her infertility course because she said that'll help with miscarriages. That course had me eating beans 6 times a day. I was so beaned out. It was crazy. I was eating tons of nuts and seeds for the essential fats. I was doing no fragrances, um, no caffeine. I did still eat fruit because I'm just like, I think fruit's great. I don't agree with her on her views of fruit, but we took,
what type of fruit?
I just low vitamin A fruit, bananas, apples, dates, berries,
Yeah.
Pears.
The good stuff.
So sorry, did you want to say?
The good stuff.
The good stuff. Yeah, the good stuff. So we did that for 6 months, and I took CoQ10. That was the only supplement I took. And I also did like I'm just saying this in case there's anybody in your forum that has struggled with recurring miscarriage, because
Yeah.
it's becoming more common, sadly. So we did red light on my ovaries every single day for a couple months, which red supposed to kind of invigorate the eggs and help the eggs be healthy.
Wow.
So
so much success with red light therapy.
Say what?
There's been so much success with red light therapy.
Yeah, there have. Yeah. I totally believe in it.
Me too.
So
that's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet. That's a good one.
Yeah. So we did that on my ovaries, and we took that 6 months and just really dedicated it to a fertile, healthy diet, and then just gave it to the Lord, because we're like, God, we can't keep doing these miscarriages. Like, it's so hard on your marriage, so hard in so many ways. Physically, I would recover. And we got pregnant, and I did get on the blood thinners. I don't know that they were the game changer. But I'm so glad that I also, during this time, I got into the macro community and strength training, because blood thinners actually deplete your minerals from your bones. So I got into strength training and lifting, and I feel like that was another gift from God, because that really helped me feel better about having to take the blood thinners through pregnancy. But she was my best pregnancy. I was kind of eating I was eating a lot of beans still, but I had some nausea with her, and the beans helped tremendously with that. Tremendously. And also, I have a varicose vein on one of my legs, and I had noticed that we had been traveling a lot. My diet wasn't awesome. And so I was like, I need to clean this up. I need to go low vitamin A. And like, the pain in the varicose vein was gone, never came back the entire pregnancy. I was itchy. I slept good. I didn't have the back pain.
Yeah.
And she was my first baby that I didn't bleed horribly after she came out.
And this was your what number child?
This is number 3 that's here on earth, and she made it. And she's our gift from the Lord. And yeah, so everything was just so much better. I never had anemia in this pregnancy. If I ever felt dizzy, I would take psyllium and it was like obliterated. So I don't know if I was dumping bile. I don't know what the deal was, but it was like that took care of it. And so, yeah, I feel so thankful. She did have a tiny bit of cradle cap still. And she did have both my boys had pretty bad bilirubin or John.
Yeah.
She didn't have it until I gave her, and I would have gone back and not do this because I read other moms saying, I think the vitamin K, I gave her drops, not the shot, but I think that gave my child jaundice, which I'm like, well, yeah, it is probably a lot for their liver to handle. But I wish I could go back and see if she would have gotten jaundice if I hadn't have done that. But anyways.
No, I feel you. I feel you.
So yeah, here I am, and I am a choline believer. I think that I'm not like, oh, everyone needs to eat 3 eggs a day or anything like that, but my digestion on the low vitamin A diet is so much better when I'm getting an egg a day, plus the plus betaine from, like, you can get that from whole wheat, quinoa has it. When I combine those things, man, I am just so happy with my digestive system. So I don't know if you have people that struggle. Those 2 things were game changers for me. So for me, like, I don't eat as much butter and cream, like, and I know Dr. G allows butter and stuff like that, but egg is my kind of, this is a high vitamin food I'm going to eat because for me, it's been very beneficial. And I know it comes with other nutrients, selenium, iodine, some B vitamins, so, and the protein. So for me, I can't digest massive quantities of meat all the time. So an egg here or there has been really helpful. And I know everyone's different, and some people can't do eggs, and some people probably get worse on eggs. But for me, it's been very helpful.
So how often are you doing eggs?
I probably do an egg 5 days a week.
Just one?
Yeah, but I've done up to 2, and what I notice is where I'm like, oh, I don't like how I feel is when I'm doing 3. So I was like, 2 is good. My digestion, like, that's another thing. If your digestion isn't good, you're not getting rid of vitamin A. So if it's helping your digestion, I'm for it. And we know that choline helps you store more vitamin A in your liver. That's what Dr. G says, and that's what I've read. However, if you're eating a low vitamin A diet already, then you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it could be beneficial in getting it out of your blood and helping you feel better. And then you're slowly getting rid of it with the fiber. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, I just feel like, I know there's so much like animosity and groups that are like, don't eat eggs. But I think, like, just try it and see. And experiment. Be willing to go off eggs for a while, see if your health gets better, and then bring them back and see, is my digestion better? Do I feel better? I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
I think, listen, everyone's different. I think once you get your levels down to a certain level, and once you get better, and then you kind of add that in.
I needed to get off when I was in my Weston A. Price days, because I was eating 3-4 eggs a day, and that was not beneficial for me.
Yeah. No, choline. Choline, I got meat, chicken, beans, sometimes potatoes. But that's interesting, and that's your thing. And, like, we can't sit here and be like, you're wrong. You've come a far long way. Yeah. You've gotten a lot better. So what are your favorite bean dishes? What are your favorite beans? How many different types of beans are you eating? I want to know more about this, like, bean journey, because beans are another food that a lot of health nuts that I think went down a similar orthorexia path. Orthorexia? Why can't I pronounce this word?
You're fine.
Beans are villainized big time, right? They've gotten a bad rap. what I think, and what I kind of know is there's a large group of us, a large group of people that have gotten really toxic. They've gotten to a place where they cannot eat certain foods, right? So it's only natural that oh, it's not me that has an issue. It's that food that has the problem, right? And I think beans were a huge part of that conversation, as well as oats, as well as gluten. Because what's fascinating about the low vitamin A diet is people are 2-3 years in, and all of a sudden they can eat beans. All of a sudden they can eat gluten. Weldon had celiac disease, and now he's eating bread.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's the whole conversation there. So tell me more about your bean. I want to know more about this bean lady, the bean dirty. Because what I've been doing in my group is, the oldest family in the world ate a 3-bean soup every day. Yeah. But like you mentioned, there's some vitamin A vegetables in that 3-bean soup. But like you mentioned, it's getting transported out with the quickness because of the soluble fiber. So what I've been doing in my group, I have the oldest family soup in the world, 3-bean soup, but with low vitamin A vegetables in it.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot. We do a lot of soups. So I don't know if you made the white bean minestrone in Leah's cookbook. It's so good. I do a lot of lentils, like hearty lentil soup. So I'll do like grass-fed beef in there with parsnips, celery, cauliflower. Sometimes I'll put zucchini in. I make a like a navy bean hummus, and we love to put meat on the grill and then dip our meat in that hummus. It's so yummy. What else? We do a lot of refried beans with pinto beans.
Do you make them with pork?
I have, but now I just don't have any good quality lard on hand. If I had quality lard, I might add a tablespoon just for flavor, but that's not you have to think about the hugeness of this pot of beans. You're not getting a ton of that, but I usually add just whatever oil I have. But I like to add, some cumin, garlic, onions. I know that Dr. G's against those foods, but I've healed fine on them. So sulfur hasn't been an issue for me, but trying to think what else we eat bean wise. We do a lot of I'll make baked beans, but you can make them without tomatoes. So you're gonna add some brown sugar, some maple syrup, some onions, and that can be really, really yummy.
Do you have any tips for people who are there's a lot of people say I can't eat beans.
Does it hurt their digestion?
Yeah, or do you have any tips? I tell people soak them overnight.
Oh yeah.
Pressure. Do you have any hacks?
I would say definitely soak them and then pressure cook them, and then don't go hog wild on them right away. Just do a tablespoon a day, and then go up to 2 tablespoons. I did the extreme thing because I'm extreme, as you've seen through my story, and I went wild on them, and they caused constipation because it's just too much. It's just too much fiber. So you have to find integrate them into your diet very slowly, but as your body adjusts, then you can really pound them, and I can really pound them now, and I have no ill effects from them.
Yeah.
Sometimes even people do well on canned beans, and I'm a huge fan of canned beans. I think the fact is soluble fiber makes it covers a lot of bad things in our diet. It's kind of like the trash man that's taking out the trash for us, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about it, is that you can afford to maybe not be so perfect, but get that soluble fiber in, and things aren't going to affect you as much.
No, and I think it's kind of going back to when we speak to friends and family, and it's all about how we frame the vitamin A conversation. And the way I'm looking at it now is, for majority of the high vitamin A foods, we really didn't evolve on them naturally. So what do I mean by that? The orange carrot.
Yeah.
The carrot was never orange. The original carrot was white. The tomato, the original wild tomato was this small little green thing in South America.
Oh, really?
They brought it to Spain. Next thing you know, it's in Italy. When it's first in Italy, it's a table ornament. They're not even using it as a food. Yeah. And then now it's become the most popular fruit on the planet, mixed with dairy and pizza. Yeah. So it's like, when we start framing these conversations from a natural selection, evolution, history of food conversation, so many times I got off the phone with my cousin yesterday, and he's like, "This makes sense." He's like, "Everything you're saying makes total sense." Milk, we weren't really designed to consume dairy and milk at the level we're consuming it. Northern Europeans kind of were the only group of people who evolved over a lot of cold winters to have the gene to keep digesting lactose, where 69% of the world is lactose intolerant still to this day. Yeah. And you got to ask them not to put cheese on your burger. It's the default. Yeah. So,
we've lost seasonality, and that's part of the reason we're in the position we are too, is we're not in the sun as much, but we've lost the seasonality, and things are available to us all year round. And so, you can have a tomato at any time of the year. Whereas before it was like maybe just in the summer, when you were in the sun, So
isn't that funny? Yeah, we go to New Jersey in the summer. It's like, oh my God, this is a tomato. Like, this is how it's supposed to taste.
Yeah.
And what are you eating in the winter? It's like, it tastes like cardboard. It tastes like nothing.
Yeah, it is true. I think that's something I would really like to push more to people, is like, just think about, like, because we do have every single food you could ever want at our fingertips, which is such a blessing. But just think about, like, maybe winters are for porridges and root vegetables. And maybe in the summer, yeah, you can push a little bit, have a little salsa on your taco. You're not going to die, but like, this is more normal. This is like, follow these rhythms, and you don't get yourself stuck in this place where all of a sudden your liver's like, seriously, give me a break. Your liver knows how to handle vitamin A, but when you're pounding it every single day, and just look at your diet and just evaluate it and see how much vitamin A you're eating, and you'll be shocked, because I was shocked when I look at mine.
No, I'm 5 months in now, and I was kind of in the car today, like, I still have a ways to go, because I really damaged my liver pretty bad. So I'm looking forward to my next test in May to see. I won't be surprised if the levels went up. But I'm looking at this like a marathon. I'm looking at this like I'm a little bit more strict and crazy, because I have to make up for lost time of the bad decisions I made, even though I didn't know I was making them.
Yeah.
I had orthorexia, if I'm saying that correctly, where I was trying to do too much, you know? And I think a lot of us have a similar story where we were trying to do too much. We were trying to do the right things.
Yeah.
And now it's just, with the advent of the internet and how social media has exploded and how the creator economy has exploded, it's like a race for people to convince you to take this new thing, this new supplement, this new superfood. And I think, and even like, I'm never going to be at a loss for content, but as a creator, it's like, what can I talk about tomorrow? Oh, let me Google the benefits of this superfood.
Oh, I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's why the work we're doing is just so important, because, you tell people, hey, guess what? If you're good on beans, you can eat them. Hey, guess what? If you hate carrots and if you hate spinach, those are actually bad for you.
Yeah. 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 It's a crazy world we live in. And I was that girl that was always looking for the next supplement, and just what could I put in my body? Whereas now I don't even take supplements. Like, psyllium is my supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Electrolytes before I weight lift, and zinc. If I'm feeling run down, I'll take a zinc. But I do test my zinc and copper to see where I'm at. So like, after pregnancy, I noticed my zinc was low. So I took about a month or two and I took some zinc, but then I stopped. I'm like, I don't want to create an issue. I eat a lot of meat. I think I'm going to be okay. And I have been okay.
Yeah. It's balanced.
Yeah.
And when in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah.
You know. Two important questions. One, I forgot the first one, but this one I get a lot because I have 3 children as well. Are you doing low vitamin A diet with your children?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So, no, I don't want them to grow up with a fear of food. However, okay, so like I have a 12-year-old. No, he's 11. Sorry. I'm an 11-year-old and I just talked to him about it. Like, this is what it is. And mom doesn't buy a ton of these foods because it's just not good for our liver. And when our liver's clean, it feels good. But if he wants ketchup on his burger, I have ketchup right here in the fridge. I'm going to let him put it on it. And
Yeah.
I comment on it. But both my boys know when they feel sick, they're like, Mom, where's the psyllium? Give us a psyllium. Like it helps them feel better. So they've seen the power of soluble fiber and it to help them feel better. And they know, and like they both know dairy. I've let them go hog wild on pizza and they're like, oh, I feel so sick, Mom. And I'm like, okay, let's learn from this.
Yeah.
Too much cheese is really hard on your digestion. Plus, has the vitamin A and the tomato sauce has a ton of vitamin A. So we talk about these things, but I really don't want them growing up in an environment that is fear mongering with food because I think that could turn into something bad. So the good thing is like I'm the one that's in charge of what comes into our house. But
Yeah.
like we have salsa in the fridge and but that we don't have like tons of greens and stuff because we don't even eat those. But like some of those things that were their norm, um, I haven't taken it out for them. But also, I'm huge on them getting enough protein. I'm huge on them getting enough sunlight. So that's something I feel like instead of taking something away from your kids, add something. Add the fiber. Like my son told me this week, he was like, Mom, I'm gonna make quesadillas. And I'm like, all right, you better put some beans in there. Like that's just like if you want to have cheese, you gotta have beans. So that's kind of how we work is just like
I like that.
add your sunlight, add your protein, and you'll be fine. And they're in great health. The good thing is their adult teeth have been very strong. So that's good. But if I see something cropping up, like I've talked to my 11-year-old because he's starting to get little like acne, little bits of acne. And I'm like, okay, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
But he's not to the point where he's even ready for that. But I don't see any major issues. If I did, I might consider pulling back more, but they're in good health.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so brilliant, so well said. I think you're doing a great job at the approach. I love what you said about you're the one bringing the food into the house, right? So it's like, I think some parents might say, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? And where I come more from the school of like, hey, we have this or that.
Yeah.
You want ketchup? Fine. Oh, you want mayonnaise? Fine. You got friends over, company over, and you guys want some salsa? Fine.
Yeah.
When we're talking about Monday through Friday and it's like you want milk at every meal, no.
And milk doesn't even come into our house. I buy quality cheese, but that's the only dairy. Once in a while I'll buy yogurt because really likes yogurt, but that's really the only dairy that comes in. So
I think that's so clutch for a lot of our parents who are listening and watching because it's one thing to try this on yourself, and this is still very much uncharted waters. This is beyond the pale. Yeah. This is kind of going decentralized out on your own. Yeah. And it's one thing for me at 39 years old to be like, hey, I'm an experiment doing great. And it's a totally different one for like, hey, I'm going to do this on my 10-year-old kid.
Totally. And I feel like until we need, like, that's what I am praying and hoping that we can actually do these studies again and prove, okay, because in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, is there some tiny thing that vitamin A does that we need it? We need just a little bit because obviously you can't eat a 0 vitamin A diet. Um,
I think that, you know what I think, and you guys are a lot more religious than me, a lot of the community, it's almost like, I don't want to get too far out and crazy, but vitamin A is almost like part of our human experience where it's like, I don't want to say we would live forever if it wasn't in things, but
yeah,
it's part of being human where everyone's going to die one day. And of course, there's a little bit of bad and the good. And there's this thing that's like going to slowly build
yep,
up over time,
for
and
sure.
it's going to get you in the end. And
Yep,
that's life, you
I
know?
I hear you. Yeah. And I definitely don't want to live forever, but I want the quality of my life to be good. I don't want to have, these debilitating issues. But yeah, I've thought about that for sure.
It's interesting, and a few people have brought, some of my readers have brought that up. Oh man, I hope I could. I get so many messages and screenshots now, but someone sent me something biblical like about this very thing, and I got to go find that. But
Really.
but it's like before I read Grant Jinru, before I started watching Dr. Garrett's live streams, going even 10, 15 years back, I was very big into traditional Chinese medicine,
Okay.
and I would read these wandering Taoist books, and there was tales of these guys living to 200, 300, 400 years old. And whenever I read that, I got this weird feeling, like not of like that's impossible. I was like, I think that's possible. And then they would talk about their diets and their liver, and like they were eating rice and like root vegetables.
Wow.
And now I'm looking back at like, yo, those guys were pretty much on a no vitamin A diet. Now, let's important add, they were in like the secluded mountains of a pristine environment. They were doing breath work, they were at high elevation getting sun. There's a lot more, like you can't be living in a metropolis city trying to live like a Taoist, although you could implement some of it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of all coming full circle for me where I'm like, oh yeah, like the Buddhist monks were eating, they said we have to eat the most simple diet so we have a very clear mind, so we can meditate, so we can be peaceful.
Hmm.
And kind of like you, I'm still going through it, but 9 times out of 10, I'm more calm than I am anxious or angry, or, I'm so calm and resilient now. And I have 2 businesses. I have 3 children. I have a lot going on and a lot on my plate where like I should be totally like crying in the shower some days. And I'm just kind of like, it's going to be all right. Like we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And I think I know that's what we were naturally supposed to be like as human beings.
Yeah.
We evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, no air conditioning, no heat, moving from village to village, or, people going on the Oregon Trail from the East Coast all the way into the Western Mount, like these stories. And you sit there like, how did they do that? We have kids who can't even go out in public right now,
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I'm glad you're getting better.
What's that?
That I'm glad you're getting better and feeling good.
Me too, because I wouldn't even be doing this. I was going through the motions. I was having to force myself. I'm still every day getting better. Like, so I am actually taking this super kind of more strict, but not even, because I'll have apples, I'll have bananas, I'll have, I guess I'm eating more muscle meat than most human beings, maybe 3 pounds of meat sometimes a day,
But you're a big guy.
Yeah. And I'm practicing. I'm fine tuning it. How do you give your kids the psyllium husk?
Well,
just in water, or?
Yeah, I paid them first.
You paid them?
Yes. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'll give you a quarter if you take this, just swig it down. But I don't pay them anymore because they actually know it helps them. So I just put a little bit in, like probably half a teaspoon in water, and I stir it around. A good entry point for psyllium too is also apple juice.
Yeah, it's probably a good synergistic combo.
Yeah, so when I have some apple juice, I'll give them apple juice with a teaspoon of psyllium, and they'll swig that down. But yeah, but they'll take it in water. And I kind of just tell them like, you know, things sometimes in life you got to do things that don't taste good, but they're going to benefit you. You'll be okay. Like we sometimes you just have to do the thing, and then when they get on the other side, the 20 minutes later when their whatever ailment is gone, they're like, "Oh, I'm glad I took that," or you know. But yeah, I would say if your child's really picky, try the apple juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After they take the best number two of their life, they're like, oh my God, I feel like a new person.
Exactly. Exactly. I will say it's very beneficial if they feel like they have a stomach bug to take it right away. I've
Mm.
had it take away a headache for my sons. One of my sons has trouble at night. He's kind of like me where he'll have a little bit of insomnia. So
Mm.
he'll wake up on his own and go take some Cilium, and then he
Wow.
goes, I can sleep. In fact, he went on a youth retreat and he had his little baggie of Cilium. He was showing his friends, and I thought, oh my goodness, they probably think he's so weird. But he's like, hey, if you want to sleep good, take this powder.
Yeah, and listen, it comes down to confidence, right? It's like, and that's something I'm teaching my children too. It's so easy to follow the herd. It's so easy to follow bad habits. And it's like, whenever we let someone make us feel weird or awkward, or like, I'm like, first of all, you're an outlier, you're being different.
Yeah.
If you're confident and you don't put other humans on a pedestal, they're actually going to copy you and follow you, and then you're actually going to help them. So like, just stay strong in your belief system of like, if something's working for you and you know it's working and it's right, like, it doesn't matter what anyone says, you know. And
Yeah.
that's why it's like when what I the love hate with the vitamin A diet is like, it's controversial,
It
you
is.
know. And I never like I never set out to be like a growth hacker or like use this thing, but it's just naturally creating traffic and anger and like controversy, where I'm looking at it like, this is great because this actually works. This
Yeah.
isn't like I'm just saying some stupid nonsense in order to stir up the pot.
Yeah.
This is actually something that's bringing people forward, and like, if they try it, it's going to work for them, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it's just a total blessing of like, it's nothing short of amazing.
It, it
And
it's something in health that like finally works, which if you've been in a natural food health world for a long time, you've realized that a lot of stuff just doesn't work very well.
the fad diets are a fad for a reason. A guy in my community, one of ones, he's like, he's an older gentleman, and I forget what diet I call the fad diet. He's like, why do you call it a fad diet? I'm like, because it's a fad, because for most people, it doesn't last. It's not sustainable, right? And compliance is the science.
Yeah.
So like, you've gotten your levels down, you've fixed your ailments, and now you pretty much eat like however you want, with this huge consideration in mind that you're conscious of. It's that simple.
Yeah. I just try to eat with wisdom and do my
You
best,
know,
and joy, a little bit of joy in there as well.
and another thing I tell a lot of people is like, you want to treat yourself. I'm like, would you take that knife and cut your wrist with it?
Hmm.
Because if you're taking a high vitamin A food and you're already toxic, you're literally like cutting your insides open, you
Yeah.
know? And when people look at it like that, I'm like, once you're healed, then it's like punching yourself. It's not going to hurt, and you can get away with it.
Yeah. That is something that I really have a lot of respect for Grant Jenneru doing like 10 years on this kind of prison diet.
Yeah.
I want to see resilience, and I want people to go get your levels down. You can go out and have pizza with your family and you won't get sick, like, but
Mhm.
maintain the lifestyle, and then vitamin A can be more of like a dessert thing in your life, and I I think it's important that he's doing that, doing what he's doing for the sake of science.
Yeah.
But I can't say this guy's health is great, but I can't say he has resilience, because I would like to see him eat other things and not have issues. That's the health I want. But that doesn't, and when I say that, that doesn't mean, oh, we should just be able to go hog wild on whatever food we want. No, but it's like, it's that wisdom piece that says, okay, like, yeah, I can have a little bit here or there and I'll be okay. And your body's like, yeah, we're good. We can
Yeah.
handle it, you know?
Yeah. Where you're not obsessive compulsive about it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like you. I like probably read both of Grant's books within 2 or 3 days. I just mashed through them. My jaw was on the floor. I was a little bit scared.
Yeah.
I was like looking around. I just got off an airplane and like I started to see all the fast food places with the cheese and the bacon. And I was like, oh my God, like this is like, so I kind of asked this to a few people and it's probably been a long time since you read it, but like, do you have any like major takeaways from either one of his books that kind of just always still stand out to you to this day? Because there's so much information in those books that I think even he says like it almost backfired in a way because it's just too much information, which I love personally.
Yeah.
But
honestly, I need to go back and read because it's been 6 years. So I can't, anything like pops up. Something that is really shocking to me that I didn't know about. And this he didn't write in his books, I don't think, but actually Weston A. Price telling people, be careful with cod liver oil. Like, you don't find that anywhere in nourishing traditions. Like this will hurt you.
Yeah.
Like that's what he says. And so, but for some reason we never heard that, you know? So I'm trying to think though, of anything in the books that really stood out to me. And honestly, my brain's just mush right now. I need to go back and just read them slowly and digest them because I was just like you said, my jaw was on the floor and I'm like, how could this be? I don't like that's, I think that like, I think he was talking about one study with children or with the dairy industry where they like got the knobs wrong on the vitamin A they put into the milk and like people. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like
I remember
that you're putting into the milk is killing people. Like that was mind blowing for me.
I just had to, you dropped a few gems and I had to actually write them down because I'm just overloading my brain with just so much information that it's like, oh yeah, I remember reading that, but it's almost like a dream. Like you brought a dream back to me because major talking point. A lot of people bring up Weston A. Price. Dr. Garrett Smith, the genius, he likes to bring up, kind of showing the body of work from the Weston A. Price Foundation. And, some of them haven't fared too well.
No.
Yeah. So that's a huge component. And then that reminds me of the part in Grant Ginru's Poisoning for Profits, where he talks about how the whole cod liver oil on the eyesight thing even came to be. And it was the sailors and the pirates, and the sailors were just really getting night blindness from being out at sea in the sun all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with anything else. So listeners out there, if you haven't read Grant Ginru's books, Poisoning for Profits yet, it's a great starting point. And then watching Dr. Garrett Smith's live streams is another great. If you're a nerd and you're a geek and you want to geek out and really go down a rabbit hole, you're going to be, there's an awakening there. And for me, once I saw it, I can't unsee it. And now it's kind of our job to like, how do we deliver it to our loved ones? So many people are suffering unnecessarily. Yeah.
That's hard. Because if they don't want it, they're not going to take it.
It's true. And not everyone does. And, that's the thing where Big Pharma will always be what Big Pharma is, because people want the quick fix. People want the trusted status quo. And not everybody wants to get better. And not everyone wants to believe, the uncredentialed maniac on YouTube and Twitter saying this, like, hey, this thing's poison. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because the results are speaking for themselves. You are another amazing testimony and life story of someone who got their life back. Like, what's the point of living if you're anxious?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so, yeah. I just feel so blessed that the Lord brought me Garrett Smith. and the low vitamin A, and then Karen Hurd and the Bean Protocol.
Yeah.
And learning like the importance of protein and building muscle as we age. I feel like when you get these things, it's just like, wow, life, you can really feel good in your skin.
Do people, friends and family, like comment on you? Like, what have you been doing? What, you know?
No, not really. I mean, my close family knows that I've done low vitamin A, and they're not really. I think they're aware of it, which is good. So they're not poisoning themselves more, but I don't think they've been like as strict as I have been. But no, I don't think. I but like I said, I don't talk about it a lot because I and you've encouraged me like just be confident in it because I'm like, how do you just tell somebody vitamin A is hurting them, you know?
Well, I think that's also part of the transition you made from orthorexia, where like maybe before, like once you have that pivotal moment, it's kind of like you just put your head to the grindstone, do what works, and you're like a new person where it's like that kind of doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like now that you've asked me, I think I remember my cousin saying once to me, like, wow, you just seem really healthy and you have a lot of vitality. And I feel great, you know? So, yeah. And I've had other like friends from college ask me, like, what are you doing? Like, tell me about your diet, things like that. So I guess I have had some people comment.
Yeah. And that's when you're like, hey, vitamin A is not a vitamin.
Exactly.
Kudos to you. Bravo. I think it's super cool also that Dr. Garrett Smith, you were with him for that long. You stayed with him. I think just tip my hat to Dr. Garrett Smith on reading this book from an engineer, not even a doctor, and then pivoting for the sake of his clients, where as a doctor, you're taking a huge risk to be like, hey, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And there's some new evidence here. There's a big piece of the puzzle here. So I just think all of you are just so awesome. And I'm happy to be part of this community and happy that you are spreading the truth and that you are doing so well. And your story is kind of awesome of how you're like, yeah, it's not a big deal. You know, it's like, we're doing it, you know, and I think that's a huge component of all of this because the same thing that got a lot of us vitamin A toxic is the same thing that can make us obsessive and too strict and too manic.
It's true.
And eventually you got to just put the phone down.
Yeah. You have to find balance. Yeah. I think if there's one message I would want your listeners to hear is just like understand what vitamin A is and then just like don't be afraid of it. Just understand what it is. And once you understand, you can make decisions. Oh, no signal.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We had a power issue.
Oh.
So do you want to say that one more time? That was awesome.
Oh, I can't see you, but yes. I think I just want to leave your people with just understand what it is. Understand that if overconsumed, this can really do some damage, but don't feel like you have to be afraid of every little thing you eat. But understand that it's all over our diets and you can make swaps and still have a rich and full life and enjoy food. And yeah.
Well said. Well said. Do you want anyone to find you online or you want to save that for later? I'll put you want to stay private on socials and stuff.
You can follow me online. I don't post a lot of health stuff, but I am on my way to I'm going to be I guess certified health coach or whatever, and I plan integrating low vitamin A into working with my clients. So yeah, you can totally follow me, but I just don't have a lot posted about vitamin A right now.
Well, I'll put your social and then that's going to prompt you and motivate you to get on it. And kudos to you. I think once people get good at this, once people have success in their own life, if your passion is this, I think becoming a health coach, becoming a nutritionist, even though these certifications, you're going to have to unlearn a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
some credibility, I guess.
It's tough. You know, I've thought about getting certified in something, but it's like, it's going to just be a waste of time for me. And I'm going to be learning a lot of things I don't agree with.
Yeah, but you seem to have quite a following, which is awesome.
Yeah. And hey, if you're listening out there and this is your passion too, start small. I started with a few guys in a group chat, helping them.
That's awesome.
You know?
That's
and
awesome.
before my group chat, I was helping friends I played sports with. I was helping family members. So if you're that person out there and you read Grant's books, you watch Dr. Garrett Smith's, you're following our community, don't be afraid. I think another problem in this health niche, and I'll kind of close on this, is like people gatekeep, but people also think that like you have to have this original twist, right? And it's like Kobe Bryant had the same moves Michael Jordan did. LeBron James emulated Michael Jordan. Like if someone's great and if what they're doing is working, it's okay to emulate that and use that in your life, like with your clients, with your friends, with your family. I don't want anyone out there to be like, "Ooh, I don't want to talk about this because Thor's talking about it," or "I don't want to talk about this because Dr. Garrett Smith already has this niche." I think this is a really important niche and a really massive piece of the puzzle that it's like, yo, the more people leaning into it, the better for humanity. And the more the light bulb moment for more people of like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. So many health nuts. That's me. I did that. I'm ready for help, so.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're getting the word slowly, and that's awesome. But I hope that it expands, and then maybe in 10 years, it'll be like old hat, like, oh yeah, don't eat too much vitamin A. Like that would be amazing.
Which, listen, that was a thing, right? They were telling pregnant women for a while not to do it. This used to be more of a common known thing. And now it's just coming. It's like, we didn't make this up. You can Google search hypervitaminosis A, and there's plenty of data, So
Yep.
Amanda Ross, thank you so much. This has been episode 9, One-on-Ones podcast. We got Kodiak the chef and Chloe, my wife, just got home. Everybody comment below, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share, tag a friend who's vitamin A toxic, right? Don't be like Amanda and be shy. Tell your friend that this thing's killing them. No, but however you want to deliver it. Thanks so much for watching and commenting. And Amanda, you are awesome. I love your story. And
thank you. It's been an honor to be on your podcast.
Cool.
We'll see ya.
See y'all. All right.
Bye-bye.